Today, we are talking about a giant metal alien death machine. So, naturally, we're talking about identity. Welcome back, fellow mages, to the Grounded Mage, where we explore how myth and magic exist in everyday life. Somehow, The Iron Giant, a movie about a 50-foot robot from space, ended up being one of the deepest films ever made about what it means to choose who you become. Also, this movie emotionally devastated an entire generation of children, my generation specifically, which honestly feels unnecessary. Like, Brad Bird actually woke up one day and was like, you know what kids need? Existential grief. And then proceeded to drop one of the hardest emotional scenes in animation history.
Superman.
No, no, thank you. I did not consent to these feelings. But beneath all the emotional damage is one of the most powerful ideas ever put into a family movie. You are what you choose to be. Not what happened to you, not what you were built for, not what people fear about you, not even what your instincts tell you. What you choose. And honestly, that's a terrifying idea because it means we don't get to hide behind, well, that's just who I am. The Iron Giant completely destroys that excuse. So today, I want to explore why this movie still resonates so deeply, the psychology of identity and choice, why fear turns people into weapons, and how we stop becoming the very thing we hate. And along the way, I want you to think about something. Who are you becoming through your choices? Let's get into it. So, first, a quick background. The Iron Giant was released in 1999 and was directed by Brad Bird. And despite now being considered an animated masterpiece, completely bombed at the box office, which honestly feels like one of humanity's worst collective decisions. Right up there with debates on if pineapple goes on pizza, yes, it does, and giving raccoons opposable thumbs. The story is set during the Cold War in 1957, a time where fear basically ran the planet. Everybody was terrified of communism, of nuclear war, of invasion, of the enemy. And that context matters because the giant enters a world already primed to fear him, which leads us to one of the central psychological truths of the film. People often become what others believe they are. Think about that. If a child constantly hears, you're bad, you're difficult, you're lazy, you're dangerous, eventually they start identifying with it. Psychologists call this the labeling theory. Humans internalize expectations. We become the stories repeated about us. And the giant, the whole world wants him to be a weapon, except Hogarth. Hogarth looks at this terrifying metal monster and basically says, yeah, but what if he's just a giant puppy? Which objectively is an insane conclusion to reach. This robot can eat trains, but Hogarth chooses curiosity over fear, and that changes everything. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when Hogarth teaches the giant about souls, which is already hilarious. Because imagine trying to explain metaphysics to a robot. Okay, so technically your body can explode, but your essence lives on. And the giant is just sitting there like, bro, I eat metal? When's lunch? But the scene matters because Hogarth keeps treating the giant like a person, not a thing, not a weapon, a person capable of choice. And psychology backs that up in a huge way. Research around identity formation shows that people are more likely to act positively when they believe they are capable of being good. Identity shapes behavior. James Clear talks about this too in Atomic Habits. Real change happens when behavior becomes tied to identity. Not, I want to stop yelling, but I am becoming a calm person. Not, I want to exercise, but I am someone who takes care of myself. The giant's transformation begins the moment he stops seeing himself as merely a machine. And honestly, humans do this too. We say things like, I'm just an angry person. I'm awkward. I always sabotage relationships. I can't change. But what if those are just old programs? What if identity is more flexible than we think? What labels have you accepted about yourself that might not actually be true anymore? Now, here's where the movie gets interesting. The giant does have destructive programming inside of him. The second he feels threatened, weapon systems activate, which is such a painfully accurate metaphor for humans. Because most people don't become destructive when they're calm, they become destructive when they feel unsafe. Someone criticizes them, defense mode activated. Someone rejects them, weapon systems online. Someone touches an insecurity, suddenly we're emotionally launching missiles. The giant isn't evil, he's reactive. And honestly, that's most people. Trauma researchers talk about how the nervous system learns survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. The problem is, our survival responses are not identities, but people confuse them all the time. A person who became aggressive to survive starts believing, this is just who I am. No, that's armor. There's a difference. And one of the bravest things a human can do is realize, I learned this response, but I don't have to stay here. That's the giant's journey. He learns he could destroy, but he doesn't want to. And that distinction changes him. Don't worry, I didn't forget about Kent Mansley, the human embodiment of paranoia. Kent is what happens when fear completely takes over identity. He sees danger everywhere. And the tragic part is, fear creates the very destruction that it's trying to avoid. That's true psychology, too. People who fear abandonment often become controlling. People who fear rejection push others away first. And people terrified of vulnerability become emotionally armored. Fear creates self fulfilling prophecies. Kent cannot imagine the giant choosing goodness because Kent himself operates entirely from fear. That's why the line, you are what you choose to be, hits so hard, because it rejects determinism. It rejects biology as destiny, trauma as destiny, programming as destiny. Now, obviously, our past affects us deeply. Absolutely, it does. But influence is not imprisonment. And it's important to remember that. Then we reach the deer scene. Good Lord, this movie. The giant discovers death, and suddenly he realizes weapons exist to end life. It's one of the most important moments in the entire film because it awakens moral awareness. He begins asking, what kind of being do I want to be? And honestly, that might be the most important question any of us can ask. Because adulthood isn't really about age, it's about conscious choice. It's about realizing, I can keep repeating unconscious patterns, or I can intentionally become someone new. If someone watched your daily choices for 1 week, who would they say you are becoming? Not your intentions, not your potential, your choices. Because identity is built through repeated actions. Then we get to the scene that can make me cry even just thinking about it: the final sacrifice. The giant chooses to save the very people who fear him. And this is where the Superman symbolism becomes brilliant. Superman isn't powerful because he can destroy things. He's powerful because he chooses restraint. That's real strength. Not domination, not intimidation, not emotional explosions, choice. Anyone can become a weapon. It takes far more strength to remain compassionate when fear would be easier. That's why the giant's final line destroys people emotionally even 27 years later. Because by the end, he truly understands who he is. He's not a gun. He's not a monster. He's not his programming. He's something more. That's the message this movie leaves with us. You are not only your wounds, you are not only your impulses, you are not only your fears. You are also your choices. Every day. Tiny choices, repeated choices, quiet choices. Eventually, those become your identity. So, if there's one thing I hope you can take from this episode, it's this: your past may explain you, but it doesn't define you. You can choose kindness, you can choose courage, you can choose healing, you can choose who you become, even if it takes time, especially if it takes time. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please share it with someone who needs it. Also, don't forget to like this video and drop me a comment and let me know, what's your favorite moment in the Iron Giant movie? Also, don't forget to check out the Grounded Mage's Hero's Journey Journal, designed to help you reflect on your own growth, identity, and transformation. Because every hero's journey starts with awareness. Next week on The Grounded Mage, we are talking about Hercules: strength, worthiness, identity, and why so many people spend their entire lives trying to earn love through achievement. Until next week, fellow mages, make it make magic.